Hey, what's going on, y'all? You can hear me all good? Good afternoon, good afternoon. If you could just leave some comments too, so I know y'all even hear me. Let me leave a comment too. What's going on, man? Ford? You're actually a Ford dealer too? Got a Ford dealership yourself? Awesome, awesome. Can you give some time for people to jump in the chat too? Have you been flipping cars already? I mean, from your profile, it looks like, I would think you've been flipping already. What's up, y'all? What's up? Who's actually been flipping already so far? Not yet. I give a little more time for everybody to jump in too. What's the holdup? Why are you not flipping yet? Gotta get into the game, Gotta get into the game. Gotta start taking action. Give some more time for people to actually jump in. And Happy New Year's, by the way, for everyone. Hopefully, last year was actually still a good year. Hopefully, it wasn't just like, thank God we done with last year. Hopefully, it was some good stuff. But I'm hoping for everyone it's going to be an even better year. Okay. And Charles, he said you purchased 3 cars, you sold one, kept one as a daily, and finishing up one now. Nice, man. And those 3 cars you purchased, those are all actually to flip? And Tracy, you said, quick question about insurance. When you buy a car, how do you handle insurance until you sell? So, really, with me, I actually have, this hopefully, honestly, I'm pretty sure people are going to ask this again once you start getting into things. But with me, I actually have like a dealer plate. I have a friend that has their own dealership too. So, they let me use the dealer plate and stuff. And then the dealer plate itself has insurance on it and it has registration on it. So, whatever, car I put that to, that also carries your insurance. But honestly, there's a couple ways you can go about it. If you're not at that point yet and you're just like flipping cars as a side hustle and you don't have any type of dealer's license or anything like that, you could just, that's usually what I would used to do back in the day, like especially when I was going through private sale or going to like public auctions. You buy it, do the same thing, registering and stuff like that. Of course, you think about that stuff before you buy it with like the expenses to that stuff. And then, same thing after that. But you put the insurance on just to kind of get the car around. Of course, there are some people that they really riding dirty. They don't put insurance on the car. They'll do the whole sketchy title skipping thing. Which it's up to you if you want to do that. I wouldn't advise it. I've heard of some people getting in trouble for it. But that's their own business, And that's awesome, by the way. What's it called? Ford. You said you taking notes, but you starting soon. There we go. And I get it with the dealer plates too. Like, it's a hot commodity, obviously, in this business. Potentially getting a dealer plate too, it helps, do the whole business a lot easier. Manny said, "How do you know a car is from insurance in IAA and Copart? I know one check, but need more ways." So, I mean, of course, one of the easiest ways to quickly do it would just be, going and getting, let's say, like an auto check for it. There are different ways you can go about getting auto checks and stuff like that, but that's one of the ways, really. With some of the cars, from what I've seen, they'll actually put some information like that in the website itself. I'm not gonna lie, right now, like I haven't used Copart in a while. I mean, it's probably been like a good like 3 years or so since I've used Copart. I used to a little bit more, but now once you start getting to dealer auctions and stuff, it's kind of like a different game. But I've still there's been people that I've seen still get some great deals and stuff from them. And four, you said, which auction can someone get the cheapest price? I mean, of course, the dealer auctions are generally going to be the best price that you can get, but I mean, it all depends. Honestly, it really depends on what type of car you're trying to get to, like how much work you're willing to put into it. Of course, cars from places like Copart, they're going to need a little bit more work. They're probably going to need. I mean, if you're more of like a mechanically savvy person, Copart, IAA, that stuff really makes sense. To jump into, and it's still I would say it still is a good avenue. Compared to, let's say, going through Facebook Marketplace and constantly searching through there. But if it's where you have to keep like outsourcing every job and constantly going to a mechanic to get things done, like that, just it wouldn't be the best route, really. It would be good if you could get most of the stuff done yourself when you're getting the cars ready for sale. John, you said, how much do you charge for access to ACV? So actually, one thing too, I'm gonna post up a link where you can see more information about the auction access stuff. I'll go through like a quick breakdown of how the pricing is now, but that'll give you like the more detailed stuff. But first of all, it's not even my platform. I basically just help people get in contact with the owner of the dealership that actually does the whole thing. But his dealership is called FMB Auto Group. He's based in New Jersey. The price, it's like a lifetime fee that you pay for everything is $1,600. You pay that one shot. It's not like a monthly fee or anything. And then the only mandatory fee technically after that is $200 for it's basically $200 per car, and you're mainly paying for the paperwork to sell that car, for something called the reassignment papers to sell it. Then after that, you also, if you want, you could get temporary tags, like 30-day temporary tags to drive the cars around and stuff. And that would be another $200 if you want to get that for the car. But that's the general stuff of it. Like I said, I'll put the link on the chat just so you could actually see a little bit more information about it if you want to jump into that. But like I said, it's not my platform. I would just be helping you get in contact with the owner of the dealership. Boom, that's the link right there. And let me see if I can pin that too. One sec. Let me try to pin that really quick. All right, there we go. Just pin that at the top. But yeah, that's like the overall breakdown, basically, of how the auction access program is. All right, and let's see what's up next. What's up again? Everybody else jumping into the chat too. Drop your comments. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time getting to some of the comments. Like, there's a decent amount of people commenting, but I'm gonna try to get to them. Just give me a little time. Yo, what's up? Now I've been wanting to get into flipping cars. Little Toasty, what's up, man? What's up? I've been wanting to get into flipping cars. What do you think is the best way to get my first car? So, Little Toasty, have you? Let's see. What's your mechanical experience like? As a quick question, you know how to work on cars a good amount, or you just kind of like just small stuff? If you're still there, Toasty, you gone? You gone already, Toasty? You gave me 2 minutes to reply to your answer or to reply to your question. Small stuff like brakes. Okay, cool. So I would say it would be one of two ways. I mean, to be honest, if you don't have the best mechanical experience like that, and you're not at the point where, let's say, you can get like a dealer's license and stuff yet, I would really suggest going to like Facebook Marketplace and stuff as like the first, just to get into things. Just because like auctions are great just for the fact that you can go to that one auction and get a lot of cars at once potentially, and you don't have to be driving around checking out a bunch of different cars. But the thing is, like, it's just a little bit more risk when you go into an auction. Sometimes you might, especially if it's not a dealer auction, you might not be able to check the car out a crazy amount, you know, and and especially if it's like something like Copart or IAA, like most of those cars need a decent amount of work, So unless you can do most of that work yourself, it's probably not going to make too much sense. So I would say Facebook would be the best place to go. And on that point, I would say at the end of this, let's see. I did actually put together a video before where I taught how to go full time actually flipping cars. I would suggest checking that out after this. And I'll just kind of give you like the overall breakdown of like, how to pay a certain amount for a car you want to flip, how to go about like pricing it, selling it, stuff like that. And what's up to also to the people that are already on auction access? Some of you guys I haven't spoken to well in a little while. Honestly, I want to start getting to the point where I want to start tracking stuff like that of exactly who joined, just so I can like catch up with you guys again in the future. Because sometimes it's like I get a lot of emails honestly per day. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to like see how he's still doing. The other person I joined a couple months ago, but it can be tough like going back to all those messages and stuff too. All right, Champion Coaching said, hey, on ACV, when I select the option to not see any cars with rust, it doesn't show me any options for cars anymore. I'm in the South, so trying to sell a car with rust is going to be a hard sell. So truthfully, I don't really go by filters like that when it comes to ACV. I usually keep it like pretty simple. Like I'll have a radius filter. I'll have a filter where, let's say, depending on the light that I want, I usually don't go for blue light cars, which is like cars that are marked title absent, just because those are cars where, you might buy the car today and the title, it's not a definite, but it's a possibility where it could come 30 days from now, So usually I have that be one thing. I don't go for blue light cars as a filter, and no red light cars as well, which for ACV, that's really the one thing I don't take a chance over at ACV. It's one thing with like Manheim or other auctions like that, where I could check out the car in person. But with ACV, I mean, let's say something comes up with the car you weren't expecting or wasn't announced, and then you get the car, like there's nothing that you could do about it after that. Like you basically just have to bite the bullet and deal with it. Whereas if it's a green light car, you can still do stuff about it. You can arbitrate it, potentially get your money back, whatever the case may be. But so that's one thing. I really wouldn't even do like a filter just for that, because the filters could just be really off. It could end up throwing in a bunch of cars that still have rust or don't have rust, and it's just completely messing up, the reach of the cars that you could have gotten. But I do definitely get what you're saying. There's people that I've coached before that are from the South, and yeah, like that's like a hard rule for a lot of people where they don't even look at the car if it has any amount of rust. But But yeah, I mean, at the very least, you could just still put like a filter for the radius that you want. So let's say you're getting a radius that's around your state. Let's say around, I don't see the states are in here, but let's say that's that, the southern area. Let's say like a 300-mile radius of where you are, just so you're mainly getting cars in that area. Rafi, what's up, Rafi? Rafi, he said, if I sign up, what auction do I have access to? So you get, it's a couple. Well, actually, it's a decent amount of auctions. The main ones are Mannheim. That's like, I'm pretty sure everybody has heard of Mannheim before. There's Odessa auctions. That's another big one. ACV, of course, most people have seen. Like that's like one of my favorite auctions. Still is basically to this day. But that's like just an online auction. Then you could also get CarMax auctions that you have access to. Also, you get, before it used to be where you could Copart also. Now the owner of the dealership had like bad business with Copart, so he's kind of like stopping with them for a little bit. You could still get IAA though, and then whatever like local dealer auctions that are by you too. Like let's say that that's not like on a bigger scale like that, but they're just like smaller local auctions. You get access to those too. And Andre, he said, I took the dealer class in North Carolina. 20 minutes into class, he stated you have to have location and DMV must approve. Zoning in my area won't allow that type of business. So I mean, yeah. Usually, unless you're going for like a wholesale license where you're just selling to other dealers, let's say, most of them you're going to have like the location part is a pretty big thing. Like you need to have the lot set up already beforehand before you even go into you know applying and stuff like that. At least getting that into motion, like a place that you can rent to have that the cars set up. Honestly, it kind of depends per state. Like let's say for me in New York, it could be very different with like your state laws in North Carolina. But generally speaking, that's how it is. If you want to do like a retail dealer license where you could sell to the public and to other dealers. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. You said Life of Nam. You said you tried to set up a call with me. I didn't get on. My bad, first of all. I'm not sure when you set up before, but I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, like sometimes it really just gets busy. Most of the time, like I'll jump on with every call, but there's times where you know there might be like a call set up, and then sometimes it doesn't even show on my side, which is a strange thing. Like there's obviously it's a website that I have everything kind of set up with, but sometimes like I won't get a notification that the call was scheduled for and stuff like that. So my bad. I mean, you could try to reach out again through email, but honestly speaking, like I'm trying to get someone to kind of help out with like kind of basically managing emails on my side, just with everything, just because a lot of times like I got a lot of emails per day now. Like there's days where I'm getting like 10 emails in a day, not only from like people asking about auction access stuff, but just general car flipping stuff and mentoring and even like YouTube stuff, like where people trying to partner or do collabs. In which even the collab stuff, when it comes to like sponsorship, honestly, I don't answer basically any of them just because I'm not trying to go syncing up with something I've never used myself. Even if it's just like, they're offering me some type of money, I usually just kind of pass on it. But that's just the thing. It's a lot of emails and stuff that I get. So I'm probably gonna have to get someone pretty soon to just kind of manage that side of things, like my emails and stuff. Tracy, so you said 1,600 for ACV, then 200 per car for temp license, and the paperwork another 200 per transaction. Yep, that's correct. That's the mandatory things. Technically, is at $1,600 to sign up, and then the $200 per car that you're paying for. There's no monthly fee. Oh, and actually, technically, there's also a yearly fee, but it's not. You don't really pay that to the owner of the dealership. You actually pay that to the auction access platform in itself. So let's say if you go on your phone and you're like your app, the app store, you just type in auction access, there'll be an app that comes up, and they're the ones that give you, like, let's say when you join up with everything, they're the ones that will give you access to places like Mannheim and Odessa, like those in-person auctions. So let's say a year from the day that you sign up, they'll send you a bill just to kind of like renew, and keep going with those type of dealerships. And usually when you go into those dealerships, well, not dealerships, those auctions, you just scan up. There's like a little QR code that you scan up, and you get access to that. But that's like the other fee that you could potentially have to pay. And I will say actually that doesn't even apply to ACV auctions. If you were just trying to get into ACV and that's it, you don't have to pay the $200, well, the yearly fee. Andre said, "Can I link up with you to buy a vehicle with your access?" Yeah, it wouldn't really be to do that. It more so have to be you just getting it yourself. Honestly, a lot of people have asked that before, but it would be a lot managing that. Like buying it under my thing, and I'd still be paying taxes potentially for it and stuff. It would just be really complicated. And I do offer mentoring, Tracy, but it's right now I'm actually not accepting any more people. Just been busy with the just other stuff in general. Um, right now I'm still mentoring like one more client in general, but really I'm kind of like dabbling with a lot of different things. So I would say honestly, if you wanted like my full system, and really the cheapest way would be getting like let's say the course that you might have heard about, Full Time Auction Blueprint. That's really where I teach like the full system that I would usually do to do this on like a full time basis, flipping cars and stuff, and of course doing with auctions. But right now I don't do any mentoring like one on one with people. And you said, did I ever get to the 100K? No, I'm actually that's like the goal, the main goal. That's really happening this year. And honestly, before I really could have gotten to it before, but I wasn't that committed to the whole thing. I was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna start it. But and I saw honestly, I will say I probably could have done a little better job with like staying consistent with that. But other stuff came up, family stuff, everything. I just ended up getting really busy. But then I was like, all right, this is gonna be the year where I'm gonna finish the whole thing. So right now I'm actually like I just passed 30,000 built up in a series, and I'm still gonna be making it to that 100K. Best believe. So, and actually the next video should be coming out next week. I was actually supposed to drop it this week, like either today or tomorrow. But I already sold the cars that I already had to do with the video, so that part was done. But as like a teaser for the video, something ended up happening with the cars where I had to arbitrate a car that was bought from ACV. So I'm kind of just seeing how that process goes, and of course I'm going to be documenting that and putting that in a video. I will say it's nothing crazy, nothing bad. Like it looks like I should be to get my money back and stuff, or however the case will go. But that ended up happening, so that kind of slowed down the process. And I want to make sure that I document that in the series, so you guys, see how that process is too. He said champion coaching. He said I'm in Georgia, radius 300 miles, and filter is just basic. Yeah, I would say so. Just because like you could still set other if you already have ACV, you could set like let's say your preferred thing, um like a preferred filter, like a save search. So you could have potentially like maybe different budgets you want to go for. But that's the main ones I would usually go for right there. Like the year, I wouldn't do like make or model or anything like that. I just kind of keep it open. Like I said, green light. Um, I would also usually do what was it, year range in general. Like usually if you're trying to get like, a cheaper car, there's no reason to be having your year range all the way up to like 2020. It might be better if you're trying to get a car under $2,000. It might be better to keep your year range around like 2010 and below. But usually I keep it generally pretty broad. And then, when the car comes up, then I'll look more into it. And if I see some things I don't like after that, then I'll kind of, just keep it moving. Tracy said, what is the average time it takes from winning the bid to be able to resell it with the reassignment paper? A couple of weeks, couple of days. I would really say, let's say from the time that would win the bid, I would say like a week for most cars for me, tops. I will say it also depends on the price that the car is actually going for also. Because just in general, like let's say a car that's selling above $5,000 even is gonna take, you know, just a little bit longer to sell than a car that's selling for like $3,000. Like a lot more people just have $3,000 just blowing cash, and especially if you're trying to go for like above $10,000, then it might be to get good profit off of it, but that's going to take a lot longer to sell. You might be waiting months potentially to sell that car. But let's say if it's a car that's like under 5,000 around, or like under 6,000, I could usually sell it within a week. From the time that I first bought it. And I'm pretty sure you guys have seen like some of the stuff that I'll usually get on the channel. Like it's not stuff where I'm doing a crazy amount of work with too. So, and yeah, Andre, is there a pinned comment? You should see like a pinned comment at the top where I left the link for the site. And actually how that is now, just honestly, just because I was jumping on a decent amount of different calls. And that was the other thing. I know there's someone else that asked about like just potentially missing a call. But that's the thing again, like sometimes there's a lot of calls that get scheduled, and you'll see when you jump into the site, like after watching the video, you'll see a button on the bottom to potentially like schedule the call. And now I have it where you're going to be jumping on a group call with other people that wants to sign up too. But before, like you'll jump, you could watch the video, you could schedule the call, and then that's just me, you, and the owner of the dealership. And a lot of people, like, they don't even watch the video. Like they'll just jump into the website, click on the button, schedule the call, and then then when we get on the call, like they don't know anything about the whole program, which is not really how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be where if you're scheduling a call, you're basically ready to sign up. It's just like you just have some leftover questions type of thing. So that was the thing. Like it was taking a lot of time sometimes, and sometimes too, like people schedule calls and just don't show up at all. So but that's gonna be like the new wave of things where you'll jump on a group call with everybody else, and you can ask questions with them too. Stratman, I don't understand how dealers are actually making a living just buying from auctions. What am I missing? So do you have like a dealer's license where you're buying from dealer auctions too, Stratman? Waiting for your comment. You said yes, you had the license and everything. And where are you located, by the way? Are you around, like, what area? Have you been doing business for a while? Like, give me a quick rundown of your situation. And you've been going to dealer auctions for a while, and you just haven't really been getting much. I'm guessing it's been kind of tough. And have you been going to like a decent amount of different dealer auctions? Like you've tried, Manheim, Odessa, ACV, local auctions, local dealer auctions, CarMax auctions potentially. Give a little more time for you to reply. And what's up, Ronald? And let me hear, by the way, it's just like some of you guys' goals for this year. Like, what do you want to do differently? What do you want to switch up? If last year didn't go too well, what do you want to do differently this year? What do you want to do with the car business? Like, do you want to start your own dealership? Do you want to just, do it on a smaller scale with auction access? Do you want to do rental cars? Like, what do you want to do? And Stratman said, he's been in business for about 3 years. He sold on the streets before the license. I just feel like I can't find deals worth pursuing in the auctions. Okay. So, I mean, I will say you might have to, it really depends on the area, to be honest. on part of it. I would say you might just have to kind of play around with different things. Like a lot of times, even people that I've mentored, like they might have tried like maybe just certain auctions, maybe like the big auctions like Mannheim or Odessa. And, sometimes what even though with some of those auctions they might have a lot of cars to choose from, it might be more competitive, where it could be harder to get a good deal. So it could be better, let's say, to go for something like, the smaller local dealer auctions that, not as many people would go to. But that's one thing. And honestly, I mean, if you have to, you could always switch it up too. Like maybe go through private sale a little bit. Do like a hybrid type of model where you go through auctions primarily if possible, but you could also have stuff going where you go through private sale. You could have like referrals coming in where not only are you potentially like selling cars to people and getting natural referrals from that, but also where people know you in the area as like the car guy. So let's say if you have, you know, if they have cars that they want to sell and they want to get rid of, you could be getting trade-ins and stuff from them too. So that's a potential thing too. Just kind of diversifying so you could have different ways to get more cars coming in. You said you don't have a reliable mechanic. Yeah, so right now I actually have like most times I usually have like some type of mobile person helping me with getting the cars ready for sale too. So like a mobile mechanic or a mobile detailer, stuff like that, instead of taking it to like, a mechanic because that stuff could get pricey, especially in New York. But of course, you still have to make sure you're getting like a good mobile mechanic that's going to take care of your cars well, and it's not going to be where you go to them and they're not even really fixing the cars right and stuff. But it'll generally save you a good amount of money. But that would help a good amount, especially with the again the like the type of cars you can get and the bigger amount of cars you can get. I mean, imagine if you can, instead of just going for one type of car that basically has like no issues at all, if you can get cars that maybe need a little bit more work, but yeah, your mobile mechanic can do it at a much cheaper rate, and you can still buy those cars and make a profit. That could help out a lot. That could help out a lot with things. And for me, that's helped out with sometimes. Like there's actually one of the next cars that I got with the flipping series. That was basically the situation where, I mean, it needed a good amount of body work with the car, and I wouldn't have normally went for that car if I was just trying to do the work with it. I was only able to get that car because I knew that my body work I was going to be able to do it for a much cheaper price, than most people usually charge. So that stuff usually helps out a good amount too. Ronald, you said I just bought my second car in ACV auctions through the auction access. I was wondering what the process with the reassignment paper and how can I get plates for the car I bought. So you bought two cars already, but I'm guessing you just haven't ordered the paperwork yet. So you just contact, you'll have his number. You should have his number, but you just contact him and just tell him you need the paperwork for the cars. You could check ACV auctions too to see if he got the paperwork yet, or you could just call him. It's up to you. But then you send him that the payment for it is $200, as I mentioned, for per reassignment paper. Hopefully you were thinking about that before you bought the car, so you thought about what your expenses were going to be. And he said, how can I get plates for the car you bought? So, as a quick thing too, so I'm pretty sure some people might have seen if they saw the training video already, but the owner of the dealership, he does actually have dealer plates available, but it's like they come and go, and he only has 5 under the dealership in general. So, and on that point too, it's like the people that would get those dealer plates, he has to at least see that you're doing good business already, because there's some people that just jump into the business, just jump into the auction access stuff. They never even flipped a car before, and they ask him for the dealer plates, and it's like, come on, like what are you even trying to do with the dealer plates? You can't just be driving around with them, to just drive your car around and stuff, your normal car around. You're supposed to be using it for business purposes. So that's one thing, but like I said, that's just for the people that are doing it at a bigger scale and have flipped a good amount of cars already. But as I mentioned, you could get temporary tags under him as well, and he could either like ship it to you or he could email it to you as well. And actually, on that point, I think I saw a comment before um, before I jumped on the call where someone wanted to talk about something with the temporary tag. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so it was Drilly. He posted a comment before I jumped on the call, but he said, please shed some light that you have about paying additional fee for a temporary tag per vehicle, and if anything goes wrong on the paperwork. We have to give me 1 second. Let me open up the comments. Okay, yeah, he said, please shed some light that you have to pay an additional fee for a temporary plate per vehicle, and if anything goes wrong on the reassignment paper for the title, you have to pay an additional fee again. So yes. So first of all, again, like you pay if you want. It's not a mandatory thing. Technically, you don't have to get temporary tags for each car that you buy. If you have another way to get the cars around, or if you have like a tow truck to pick the cars up, whatever the case may be, you could do that too. But on the point where for the reassignment paper, if you make a mistake, and honestly, yes, I've done that myself. Like there's times before where either what was it one time? I think it was where I just made the mistake where I was going to end up doing business with one person. Like I thought he was going to buy the car. I wrote the reassignment paper out and stuff, and then he ended up like dropping out of the sale basically. And then it was kind of like a waste of reassignment paper. And then if that's the case, you end up having to pay again for another reassignment paper. But honestly, I put that on me. I didn't put that on the owner of the dealership just because I should have made sure that he really was good with the sale. But I would just say if you're jumping into the whole auction access stuff, like don't start filling out the free reassignment paper, with the customer's information and stuff until you get the money for that car, and be very careful with it. It's valuable stuff that you're filling out. So, you can't be taking chances, making mistakes and stuff. But like I said, I made that mistake myself. And Tracy said, do you buy the cars from ACV in a business name or individual name? Well, it's all purchased under the owner of the dealership's name. It's FMB Auto Group, and I'm just marked, or the people that's under the team. It's like over like 100 people under the team now. They're like you're all marked as a buyer and a seller under the dealership. Like you're representative as a buyer and a seller under the dealership. And Andre, Copart and I always have a good buy now price, but public license not allowed to bid. Well, I don't know if you've seen that before. You could also get like a broker under Copart, and it could give you more access to more cars and stuff like that too. So that could help out with things. Of course, yes, there's going to be fees and stuff like that you're going to have to pay if you use a broker, but sometimes it could help, just for having like a bigger variety of cars to choose from. And Sire, it's $1,600 as a lifetime fee. Oh yeah, and as Tracy's said, how do you pay for it? It's either you can pay him directly. The quickest way, and actually the cheapest way, technically, is paying him through like Zelle or Venmo or Cash App or something. Obviously, I know that it sounds a little sketchy. Okay, I get that, but it's the quickest and cheapest way if you wanted to like pay that day and get started that day. You could also pay with a credit card if you wanted to, but it would be through my site. And then if anything, if that was the case, it would be a higher fee just because there's like a processing fee if I take a payment through my site. So instead of being like 1,600 flat, it would be like 1,660, let's say. And it would take like, let's say like 2 business days for that payment to come through. And then, I'd just be taking that payment and sending it to the owner of the dealership. And Alex, he said, how can I get or rent a legit dealer's plate? So I will say as a quick thing, like there are people out there, it might not even be a dealer plate, but sometimes a cheaper type of plate is technically called a transporter plate. And I mean, it's around the same as like what some people do the same type of thing that you might see around you, like on Facebook or something, where they might offer like auction access and stuff, dealer auction access. But this time they'll just do that separately, like offering transporter plates. So you could go that route, but obviously, like you just have to be careful with it and make sure that the it's legit. Like it's under a real business. Generally speaking, I mean, if you did research where you saw that it's under a real business, you know that usually would be a decent amount to be able to like kind of get assurance for it. But some people they'll get like some random dealer plate or random transporter plate, and like there's no business name under it, like there's no registration under it, insurance under it, like there's nothing basically. So you have to do your research just to make sure that it's coming from like a legit business as well. But that is an option, like if you want to get that too. Mm-mm-mm. Charles, you said I have to stay away from red light cars no matter how cheap they are. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say for ACV, oh, it depends. It depends. I mean, obviously, if it's like a $600 car, you're all in for $600 or $700, and then you know that you could potentially junk that car if things are really bad and just get your money back. I wouldn't mind potentially getting that car myself. But if it's a car that like $2,000 or above, even like $1,500 and above, or something like that, to me, I usually wouldn't take a chance with it because again, it's like if something comes up in that scenario where maybe something wasn't listed in the description, whatever, of the car, like there's really nothing that you can do about it. Like you just have to just deal with it after that. So, but it is different with something like Mannheim or Odessa. But those type of auctions that I go to in person and I could check out myself, at that point I do buy red light cars just because I trust myself being able to check out the car enough in the right way, so that it's not going to come up with a bunch of problems when I get the car home. To a couple of big auctions. He said, I'm looking to purchase a pickup truck, a F-350. What are you doing with that 350? What are you trying to tow around? What work are you trying to do? He said, but I need a dealer's license. Public not allowed to bid on lesser damaged cars with the access you spoke of. Allow me to buy on my own and flip it. Yeah, so where are you trying to buy it from? You said, but I need a dealer's access. Public not allowed to bid. Is that from Copart, Andre? Like from like Copart or IAA? Still there, Andre? Mm-mm-mm. You said a lot of car stores run everything red light. So if you can go in person and inspect the cars, you can do it. You can do well. Okay, so I mean, if you're looking at Copart or like I mentioned, I don't know if you're there when I mentioned it earlier. The owner of the dealership for the auction access stuff, they don't do business with Copart, so you wouldn't be able to use them. It would be for IAA if you want to use them, which to be honestly, like, first of all, they're just about the same. And for me personally, I've heard better things from IAA, even with the people I've like mentored and stuff. But yeah, you would get access to that under the auction access stuff, and then you'd have the ability to not only buy cars that are like public cars, but also like dealer cars and stuff as well. Truthfully, for me, again, I don't even mess with IAA and stuff, like just because I'm trying to go for cars that are a little bit easier to work with and easier to sell and stuff, rather than cars where I need to be like changing transmissions out and stuff like that, which or doing like crazy body work with, which IAA and Copart, that's generally more of those type of cars. So, and like I said, if you got into auction access, you'd have those different auctions too, like Mannheim and Odessa and stuff. Okay, let me go back. And you're welcome, Strap Man. I got you. Hopefully that helps. I definitely would suggest that. Like I said, if you can get like a reliable mechanic, or if you can get one of each, like someone that can do bodywork stuff, detailing stuff, and mechanic stuff, like that can help you out in a huge way. Just because you'll be able to, not only will you be able to go for some cars that you might not have been able to do with your own skill set, but it'll just help you to scale faster too. Like you can't do everything yourself, especially when you start selling like 4+ cars at a time. And Diddy said, "How do you get signed up for auction access?" There should be a link at the top. Hopefully, it's still there. But there should be like a link pinned at the top where, well, a comment pinned at the top of the chat, and you go into that. There's like a video. Once you get once you put in your email, you get the video sent to you, and you'll get a chance to schedule a call if you're ready to sign up. If you just have questions, you can always just reach out through email with me. But if you're ready to sign up, you can jump on a call with everybody else to sign up too. So I appreciate your content. Thank you, man. I appreciate you for checking it out. He said, I started my journey last October. First one was a Dodge Grand Caravan. Nice, man. That's the first one you flipped. Yesterday, I bought my 5th one. Oh, nice. And you just started in October. That's good. Yesterday, I bought my 5th one, and I'm having some issues. Can I ask some questions? Yeah, what's your questions? Oh, it's the next one's here. So I'm dealing for the first time a late title. I talked to titles yesterday, and they told me seller applied for a new one on the 37th day for a duplicate. Now I need to wait 8 more weeks. So I'm guessing you already have. Is this how did you buy the car? Was this did you get auction access and stuff? Are you buying from dealer auctions? And you said the car is sitting for 3 months plus now. Should I push late title notice because I already did $1,200 of work on the car and I'm gonna lose money? Oof. Okay. Yeah, Narobi, you still there? You said on ACV, yes. So that's the tough thing right there. So honestly, that's usually why I would advise, if you are buying a car from any auction, like from any ACV, Manheim, anything like that, like wait until at the very least the title comes into ACV. Even if it's not like the title comes into the dealership, at least if like ACV or let's say whatever other auction saw that the title come in and the title is good, is clerked and everything, at that point, you can start putting in money to get the car ready for sale. Because that obviously, once you've already invest all that money into the car, you have less options at that point. Just for obviously not for your situation now, but for other people just listening. But for now, I mean, you said you've already waited 3 months now. That's a long time. So I push late title notice. I would say yes. You should already. Honestly, you probably should have already put the late title notice in, like right at basically let's say that I'm guessing it was a blue light title. I'm guessing it was a blue light car, and so the seller might have had 30 days. But usually for me, I put that late title notice in like a couple days before that last day is about to come up, just because even for the seller, they don't get paid for the car until they bring the title in. So it's not like they got paid yet, But a lot of times for me, if that time has come up where that time frame is about to end, when I put the late title notice in, that'll kind of cause them to take action. Because I will say some of the sellers, like, they're really busy too. They have a big lot. Some of these cars are coming from these gigantic dealerships, like Honda dealerships and Toyota dealerships and stuff. And that car that you bought might have just been one of many from them that was sold. So I would definitely say putting in that late title notice and just go from there. Like if ACV is still saying that, they haven't heard anything from the seller at that point, honestly, it might be better to just potentially bite the bullet. I know you already put the money into the car, but truthfully, it would be better for you to end up, let's say getting the car back and then getting your money back rather than potentially waiting another like 2 months or so if there's literally no action at all from the seller. Because at that point, you could have made way more, even than that $1,200 of work that you put in. You could have made way more than that in, let's say the next month or so after you get your money back for the car. Because, that's how the game is. You want to get your money back for cars and keep reinvesting. So That's what I would suggest. Just try to put in that late title notice, give it a little bit of time, maybe like a week at most, to see what the seller's going to do. And then if not, just, cancel everything out. And if you got to get the car back, it is what it is. And just try to keep that money moving. Mm-mm-mm-mm. It's good you guys got some good comments going back and forth too. That's what I want in general, by the way. Like, if you guys even want to like connect with each other, if there's people that's like in the same state as you or something, if there's someone that can go to the dealer, well, auctions with you or auctions in general, like if you can mix up with somebody else and kind of help each other out, that's a big thing as well. Connections are a big thing, honestly, in this game and business in general, really. How do we sign up? And by the way, as a quick thing, Andre, make sure. Well, I don't know if you bought from Copart and stuff already, but them fees are crazy. Not even just broker fees, but like fees for buying a car. So just make sure you're not just going in buying any car and you didn't even look at the fees for what they charge after that. So just make sure you're thinking about that stuff before you even make a bid for a car. Oh, flipping cars says, yeah, I bought thousands of red light cars. Oh, you're a risky man or risky woman. You'd be surprised actually too. There's been some women I've spoken to that's been in this game that done some good things already too. I know obviously it's a more male dominant space, but I love seeing when there's a woman that jumps in as jumping into this too. That's just me though, honestly, for the red light car thing. Like the times that I've heard of some people that have bought red light cars specifically from ACV, not Manheim and stuff like that, but specifically from ACV, and especially if they're buying like expensive cars, like let's say if they're buying a car for $3,000, $4,000 in this red light, you know, that can just it could go good, but you're kind of gambling potentially at that point if something goes bad. So it's just not like what I like to do. I don't like to take like really crazy risks. And yeah, I would usually say Copart and IAA are my last resort too. At some point, I might end up just going there just for like to try it out. Maybe this year, maybe to like to add it up to the flipping series and see how that goes too. So you guys can kind of see that side of things. But generally speaking, it's kind of like once you get the other auctions, like the other dealer auctions, like Manheim and stuff, you don't. It's kind of like why go back to those auctions, like Copart and stuff. But I'm not gonna say like it. Like let's say if you don't have dealer auction access or a dealer's license or whatever, it still is an option. It's not like you can't get good money from there. I've seen people. I've spoken to people that have made good money from there too. But it's just a different line of work you're kind of in, where you're gonna be more into like fixing up the cars a lot more. And yeah, I just got to your comment. Did you see what I said? Oh yeah, you're welcome, man. And Diddy, I would highly suggest just going to that training. I mentioned it before in like the beginning of the training, like exactly what you get with everything. But I would suggest trying to click into that link if there's a link still at the top there. Try to click into that, put your email in, and then you'll get the training sent to you where it goes into like a lot more of the specifics of everything. But as a very quick summary, I mean you pay the $1,600, it's lifetime auction access, like dealer auction access, and you get access to a good amount of different auctions. And you also get the option where you don't there's no limit of how many cars you can sell. That's another big thing. Usually if you're not doing the whole dealer auction access thing, most people on YouTube don't say that. But if that's not the case, if you don't have a dealer's license in some way, you're basically title skipping. That's what a lot of people do, where they buy the car, they don't even register it, and they just sell it to the next person after that. They don't even fill out the title or anything. And that can incur a lot of big fees and stuff like that. So that's up to you if you want to try that out. For the people that do that, but that's the big thing with this program too. Like you can sell as many cars you want within a year, and there's nothing limiting you. If I have access to it. And Andre said, if I have access, I still need to pay for the paperwork reassignment. I can't just flip it to someone. Yes, yes, and I will say you could get a reassignment paper for, like, let's say if you want to buy a car from private sale, because normally if you buy a car from private sale, you also have to do the whole thing of registering the car if it was under your own name, and then insuring it, stuff like that, before you can even potentially sell it or list it up for sale. So you could do the same thing where you buy a car from private sale if you wanted to, and then get the reassignment paper from the owner of the dealership and put that over the title so that you could skip that whole like registration process. But you still have to do the reassignment paper per car, especially with auction cars. Like, generally speaking, when you're buying a car from the auction, especially like dealer auctions like that, the title itself is already filled out. So, and then it comes with other paperwork like the bill of sale for the title, or the bill of sale for the car, and stuff like that too. So there really wouldn't even be a way that you could just sell it as it is. You'd have to get like a reassignment paper to put over it, or do something else with the dealership. And the Ruba said also how to tackle the arbitration process while on phone with ACV. I'm new to these kind of interactions. Yeah, so it's kind of like you're for the most part, it's kind of like each situation is a little different, but for the most part, you kind of start off with the app. That's kind of like the easiest way to do things, um, or on the website potentially. But you start up with that. You put in the report for the car. There should be a part that comes up when you go into the car, the listing for the car, where you go all the way down, and you'll see a part where it says like report an issue. You click into that. There'll be a part that comes up where it says like report for late title notice, report if there's like damage on the car. Let's say if it was like a green light car and there's stuff that wasn't reported for the issues it had, you can report stuff like that. So then once you put in the report, that's when basically you'll be bouncing between just you and customer service. And with something like a late title notice, I mean it'll basically just be where it's up to how you want it to go, where for the most part you put in the late title notice first. So you could tell them that. You could call customer service. You tell them, all right, I want to put in the late title notice. I've been waiting for a while for this title. I don't know what the seller is doing. Then usually they'll give the seller basically like a 48-hour notice, like something like that, where if they don't take some type of action to bring in the title, let's say, then it'll be up to you for what you want to do after that. And at that point, you can either do the thing where, let's say you give the car back, that's one option, or you just keep waiting, But as I mentioned, I wouldn't wait a crazy amount longer if I was you. If it's the arbitration side for, let's say, if it's reporting an issue, like a problem came up with the car that wasn't reported when it first was listed for sale, that's a bit of a different thing. It's a little bit more complicated because you put in, you do the same thing where you go through the app at first and you put in a report for the issue. They might ask you for like pictures of whatever the issue was, or it could also help to, like, let's say, get like a bill basically showing like what the problem is with the car. Let's say from a mechanic. Usually at some point, if it's like an issue that came up with the car, they'll usually want you to get the car checked out with the mechanic at some point. But I will say on that point of like, let's say, reporting for an issue that came up, make sure like when you're getting a car through ACV, you're checking out that car right away as soon as possible, because I've seen some people, just as a quick note, like they'll get the car from ACV and they'll be like, all right, well, there's no issues with the car. It's a green light car. That's all there is to it. And then, let's say a week goes by, they still don't check out the car. And then they finally get to checking out the car and, to make it ready for sale and stuff. And they end up finding out that like the transmission is messed up or something. And then potentially at that point, they might not even be able to arbitrate anymore, because usually, like let's say with ACV, there's like the minimum amount. I believe it's either 7 or 10 days to arbitrate a car if it's just like a green light car. So let's say, if you pass that time, there's nothing really that you can do after. But so make sure, at if anything, you put in that report before that time frame comes up, and then you kind of go from there. But after that, like I said, you're really just bouncing back and forth with customer care. A lot of times, you'll talk to them. Um, customer care, they'll usually send out an inspector to inspect the car to see exactly what's wrong with it, and then sometimes that's enough as it is. Where boom, you could just be like, all right, well, do you want to go about potentially giving the money back? Well, getting the money back for the car and just giving the car back, or having it where, let's say, you have the seller get credits to cover whatever the issue is that came up that wasn't announced. But you'll be bouncing back and forth with customer care. Let me get caught up with some of the comments. And yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I might be a little backed up with messages here. I'm gonna start catching up. But yeah, that's usually what I do, Tracy. I would suggest anyone for like, don't do any work with the car, especially putting money into the car. I mean, if you want to detail a car or something like that, you could. I still wouldn't, just because, like, you're still putting in time at that point. But especially putting money in, you really shouldn't put any money in until you at least see that the auction got the paperwork and it's all good. And Shaz, what's up, man? Yeah, I'll be talking to you soon, man. Do you buy from IAA? No, I stay away from IAA. I used to, buy cars from places like that or Copart, but yeah, not anymore. Now it's mainly just like the bigger dealer auctions like Manheim and stuff. Another flipping question. Let's see. How do you stay away from cars that doesn't sell well? I bought this Dodge Dart, and I'm in California. Nobody wants it even $200 below the purchase price. So I would say a big thing is really just seeing. Honestly, one of the best thing is seeing, first of all, if that car even still sells, and seeing how many people still sell it, like, before you even buy the car. Like, let's say, all right, you see the car is going up for ACV or Copart or whatever. Just looking on, like, let's say, Facebook Marketplace, and seeing how many of them are selling. Like, let's say if you search in your area, you only see that like 2 of them are selling or 10 of them are selling or something. It's a good chance there's not that much demand around it. Of course, the best cars that you can go for, generally speaking, and I will say that it kind of depends on the region. Like, regions are different for what cars are better to sell. But generally speaking, the the cars that you see a good amount, like, on the streets, it's kind of simple, but a good amount on the streets. Like, let's say, in my area, I see a lot of Jeep Grand Cherokees. Of course, honestly, for any area, things like a Toyota Camry, Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, cars like that are going to sell regardless. But that's a good way to see, like, around what people really want. And like I said, actually looking at Facebook Marketplace and seeing how much of them are actually selling in general. But I would say now, as a quick question, is there anything wrong with the car? You said you're selling it for $200 below the price that you bought it for from the auction. Oh wow, flipping cars. You said 44 years flipping cars. That's nice, man. Been in the game for a while. I'm sure auctions and everything were much different back then. And the robot said everything works. Just need your money to keep it going. So as a quick thing, I would also say, well, and what are you using to sell? Facebook Marketplace, I'm guessing. Probably right. Okay, so basically all of them. You tried Craigslist, OfferUp, and Facebook Marketplace. So if you haven't yet, I would say definitely try boosting it as one thing. Um, I would also suggest trying to take a video with the car too. From what I've seen, like if you take a video and post it up with the car for Facebook, of course, it'll usually just do a little bit better. Like Facebook will like broadcast it out more. And I would also suggest just posting it up like again. I don't know when the last time was that you posted it, but let's say if it was like a week ago or so, taking it down, keeping it at that, let's say the reduced price that you have it at now, because it really should be able to sell, especially if you go on like Kelly Blue Book or you're looking around your area and you're the cheapest price. It should be able to sell if there's no issues and with the car and it's already for a competitive price. Like if you're the cheapest one, there should be people out there that want it as well. But I would say do that. Try to repost it for that cheaper price. Um, Boost it if you can. It doesn't have to be a crazy amount for the boost, but if you can boost it to the point where it's at least reaching like maybe like 1,000 people a day, it depends on how much that'll be for you. But I would suggest it, even if it's just for like a couple days, like 3 days, and then like I mentioned, putting up a video with it too usually helps out a good amount. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Well, you said if I buy a red light car, I touch it first. Okay. So if it's from ACV, you usually just kind of reach into the screen, touch it real quick. No, let me stop. No, I hear you though. So I'm guessing that you only buy red light cars if it's like Manheim or something like that. And what's up, Walpole? And Tracy, you said, do any of the auctions have trailers? No, usually. I mean, for the most part, I mean, the auction itself, their main thing is just like, all right, they have the cars there ready for sale. After that, it's up to you how you want to get the cars home. They Most of the auctions do offer some type of transportation where you could buy towing through them. As a quick thing, if you guys don't know too, you could also purchase towing directly from ACV, even if it's, well, obviously that's for the people that have, let's say, dealer auction access. But you can purchase ACV transportation even for cars that wasn't purchased on ACV. And usually, from what I've seen, they have the cheapest transportation prices compared to other people or compared to other auctions. So, would definitely suggest that. You said our cars from the insurance company, usually a safe bet on these auctions. I would say, well, as a quick thing on that point, like let's say if you are buying from something like a Copart or an IAA, I would say if possible, it's better to get a car that's being sold from an insurance company, and usually you could see that stuff, on the listing. But it's better to buy a car from an insurance company rather than a car that's being sold, let's say from like a random dealership or from like a private person. Usually those cars, those are cars that the person might have got themselves and it's just junk and they just selling it right back, to the auction. So if possible, it's better to go for those insurance cars rather than the other options. But of course, just keep in mind like it's an insurance company. They're because of the fact that the person that owned the car might have crashed it or something like that, or whatever damage was done to the car, and now it's like they didn't insurance didn't see it being valuable enough to get that car fixed, so now it's there, like at the auction. So of course it's gonna need a decent amount of work before it comes time to get it ready for sale. But still, generally speaking, like you could get some good profit off of it if you can get it ready for sale at a decently cheap price. Not where you're taking the car to the mechanic to fix everything or to the body work shop to fix everything. At that point, it could kind of rack up pretty quick. Naruba, a lot of questions here. Let's see. How to choose cars carefully, knowing how much the car will sell for, understanding the car market in my region. I don't want to buy cars that won't sell like stupid Dodge Darts. I appreciate you. Appreciate you again for even sticking to this long. You got good questions, by the way, too. And I can see that you're. The good thing I will say, Naruba, is that you're already taking action. There's a lot of people that they'll jump into, they'll be thinking about, flipping cars and stuff like that. And a year will go by, 2 years will go by, and they're still like just kind of waiting on the sideline. So it's good that you jumped into things and you're taking action like quick, you know. But let's see. But on to just like what cars to choose carefully. I mean, it's a lot to it, to be honest. I mean, I would say as one of the main things, I'll really just say, like I said, like before you buy a car, try to see how much that car sells for in your area. That's one of the best ways that you can really see. Like if you go into the car, let's say if you're about to bid for a car, you go on Facebook Marketplace and you see that there's only 10 of those cars listed for sale or 20 of those cars listed for sale and like a 50-mile radius around you. That's not really too good. It's better if there's like, 200 listings or 300 listings or something, and you could be one of the most competitive listings that's just posted up, let's say. And that's really one of the biggest things, just looking at Facebook Marketplace and also doing that too. Like you can even go on Facebook Marketplace and even just do a little bit of like market analysis where you just go in there, you just look at what's just sitting there for a while. Like there's some cars that you'll probably see where it's been sitting there for, it's been a month ago, it was posted, stuff like that. Try to think about why. Like, why is that still sitting there? Why is the pricing bad? Like, is it just where people are interested in that car? And usually speaking, I will say too, like the cars that are still selling to this day, like they're still being sold, a lot of times those are going to be the cars that people are generally going to be the most interested in. Like, let's say if it's like a what's it called, like an Oldsmobile or something like that, that comes up for sale, even if it goes for a really cheap price, it might be good to just pass on it. Like, or even like there's a couple, there's a couple companies like that, or even models of cars that might have came out before and, they might have came out before and now they're not even selling anymore because there's just not that much desire for it. So that's another good way to kind of see, like just seeing like, all right, is that model car, not only that brand, but is that model car still being sold to this day? A lot of times those cars that are still being sold to this day are generally going to be good sellers because the manufacturer is still making them. And Trini said ACB robs you on arbitration. They said they never return full payment of the car. So actually, as a quick thing on that point, with ACV, if you do an arbitration for a car, they won't pay you back for the transportation that you get on the car. So that's another thing. Like, be careful of buying a car from too far. Where let's say if you buy a car that's like 500 miles away and you're paying $500 for transportation or something. If something comes up with the car and you have to arbitrate it, that $500 is gone basically. So think about that when you're gonna be buying cars. I would say, I mean, they haven't robbed me. Honestly, they've been pretty good to me. Again, you're gonna see the next flipping series video that I have coming out pretty soon. Well, it should be next week. But with that, I mean, I bought a car as a quick thing. It basically ended up having like a transmission issue with it. But from the looks of it, I'm gonna have all my money coming back for the car. I actually did get transportation with the car, so I'm not gonna be getting the transportation money back. But I didn't pay much for it. Like I only paid like $100 for transportation. But I will be getting the whole money back for the car. But of course, it does depend. Like Honestly, compared to other auctions that I've purchased from, I would say ACV is the best in terms of how they handle arbitration. There's one car I actually got before where I bought the car, it was a green light car and everything, and it didn't say that it had any issues with it. But then when I got it, it wasn't anything big, but it was like um it was like a TPMS light that was on, or like a TPMS light that was on, and I put in an arbitration for that, which honestly is not a huge thing. Like especially at the price that car was selling for, it wouldn't have like make or break. It's not going to make or break the deal for the car. Like people would still buy that, even if it's like a $3,000 car. People would still buy that with a TPMS light being on. But when I arbitrated it, ACV still ended up giving me credit for the car. Like they gave me like $400 or $500 of credit. So generally speaking, I would say out of the auctions, they've been the best to me. But you know, maybe it could depend a little bit. Alfred, you said, what's the average time it takes you to sell, and do you pay for advertising? Yeah, so actually, I think someone else asked that too. But usually for me, I mean, from the time that I post up a car, so first of all, before even that, generally speaking, I usually go for cars that, first of all, are definitely under $10,000. I don't like to be above $10,000. If you're above that price point, it's going to take a lot longer to sell in general. I feel like honestly, the sweet spot for most people is going to be around like maybe like $6,000 and below, around that for cars you're just selling through private sale without being able to finance or anything like that. Those are cars where you can potentially get good profit off of, but still sell pretty quickly. From my experience. So that's one thing. So the pricing really matters, and of course, I mean, it's not to say I can't go for a higher price car. Like I flipped cars before that. Could sell for 9,000 or something, but I'll just be aware of the fact that that's probably going to take a little bit longer to sell. So a car like that, it might take like 2 weeks to sell instead, potentially. But if it's a car that's selling for like 6,000 below, a lot of the times I usually sell that within a couple of days from the time that I post it up. Like I posted up today, and then a good amount of people are hitting me up, and then within a couple of days it's sold. And usually, yeah, I pay for advertising too. I usually pay a little bit for boosting, not a crazy amount, generally like $5 a day, something like that. I don't go crazy and go blasting $20 per day, but from what it looked like, I have tested too, like to see if the boost would help or not for basically the same car that I posted, and it looked like the boost did help. Not a crazy amount. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't say it'll save the car. Like it won't be where, let's say, if no one was interested at all with the car, it won't be where you boost a listing and then you're getting thousands of people hitting you up. But let's say if it was people already kind of hitting you up before, it'll be where it's just more people hitting you up, and that helps. Like having more people see the car, that could help you get it sold faster. And you said, ooh, we come with a lot of questions there. Good questions though, like I said. And by the way, as a quick thing, I could probably go for like another like 11, 12 minutes before I gotta jump off the call. So you said, I've seen all your videos and content. I know you're gonna be mad. I am kind of tight. I'm not gonna lie. You're asking another question. No, I'm just playing. No, you're all good, man. Like I said, I like that you're taking action and you're asking good questions too. But what are the best ways to verify a VIN before purchasing? I have access to Manheim, so I check the Manheim app. Honestly, I would say that's usually one of the best ways to me. Just kind of getting into everything, especially if you're buying it from the auction. Like, I mean, especially if you're buying it from the auction, honestly, there's not going to be too much like overall scamming going on. Like in terms of most times if the car is posted up as like a clean title, if you look at the VIN number, or if you look at the VIN and everything, it's probably actually going to be a clean title, you know. But usually, what I also like to look at is things like how much owners the car has and how much actions the car has as well, because that stuff actually you could make a little bit more money off a car for that type of stuff. Like let's say if it's a one owner car, you could bump up the pricing for the car a little bit more, and you should put that stuff into your ad as well when you're putting into the description, stuff like that, like to just to get the car sold for a little bit more money. But honestly, I don't really think. I mean, unless it's like a more expensive car, like let's say something that's like $5,000 and above, something like that. It could make sense to potentially get like a Carfax for the car and auto check, but like a full auto check report. But most of the time, you don't really have to do that, especially for the cars that are selling a little bit cheaper. I buy my car that cool. He says Copart a good platform to buy clean title cars. You can buy potentially clean title cars, but it's not going to be a crazy amount of them there. Honestly, like you should more so be expecting, if anything, to buy like maybe a rebuilt title car instead, or a salvage title car potentially too. Just keep in mind, if it is salvage title, you have to do the process of getting it into rebuilt title status, to actually make it ready for sale. You can't sell like a salvage title car. Like no one could drive that on the road, basically. But so that's one thing. You could go for those other cars too, but just keep in mind stuff like that of when you're going to be selling the car. And on that point too, I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but if it is a car that's not being sold as a clean title, like let's say it's a rebuilt title instead, you shouldn't be trying to sell it still for like that same regular sale price as a clean title car. Like you should be trying to sell it for, generally speaking, like around 75% of what the clean title price would be for that car. That's around what it should be selling for as a rebuild title. But yeah, like I said, you could buy clean title cars, but it's not going to be a crazy amount on there. And honestly, those clean title cars, you can still go for them, but it's going to be pretty competitive. Like there's going to be most likely a good amount of people bidding for those cars. What's cheaper? I'm guessing you're saying what's cheaper, auctions between Manheim or ACV. So for me personally, like ACV has been the better one out of the two. But honestly, it really depends on your area. Like there's been people that have joined or people that have mentored where Manheim might be the better way to go. So usually I would say to try just different auctions and just see what's the best around you. But and I will say actually what kind of plays into that for my case is Manheim is a little far from me. Like they're a good like hour and a half from me. So that's part of why I don't go there a crazy amount. And you said, do I buy from Capital Auto Auction? No, I don't. Right now, honestly, like really my main ones really is ACV. Here and there, I'll dabble in private sale a little bit, but right now, most of my cars are actually coming from ACV, and they've been the best one to me so far. But again, that's my area, so it could depend on where you're at. And Charles, when you post a car, do you put in the ad that you're a car dealer? Um, no, not when I first posted up, just because I wanted to just seem more like, all right, I'm just a regular posting up the car. But if they are serious enough to actually come to check out the car, I'll tell them that right when they come. Like that's literally like the first thing that I say. They'll come to check out the car. I'll be like, hey, just let you know I'm a car dealer. This is one of the cars that I'm selling. I have other ones for sale as well. I already checked out everything with the car. It's all good to go. It's good to register. It's a clean title, all that stuff. If there was any issues with the car too, I would say that right at that point. Most of the time, it's not anything, but let's say if it's something that, it would just be good for them to know rather than waiting until them potentially finding it out themselves. And then they're like, "Yeah, this guy is a sleazebag. This guy's a sleazebag. This guy's lying on all that stuff." That's not what you want. You want it to be where the person trusts you, in general. And especially when it comes time to, like, let's say if you have dealer auction access and you're going to be showing them things like, reassignment papers and stuff like that when it comes time to making the sale at the end. Like you don't want to be that weird guy that comes to that point and you're making up some story like, oh yeah, I got those reassignment paper and yeah, there's a title here too, it's clean. And then they're like, oh, where's the reassignment paper coming from? And you're making up some crazy story just to make it all make sense. You're better off just kind of telling that stuff from the jump. Trini said I paid $3,100 on a green light car, only got $700 back. Wow, for a blown transmission verified by inspector. Did you have an option to give the car back, Trini? Did you have the option to just give the car back and get your money back? Because that would suck if that was the case. If you really just had to, if that was your only option. For me, how they did it, let's say when like a transmission issue did come up with the car that I purchased, they gave me that option. They were like, "Oh, you can either give the car back and then get your money back. I got the full amount back for the car that I paid again with fees and everything, but minus the transportation cost. But again, I didn't pay much for transportation. But that was the other option where they were like, the seller could potentially cover. Well, I can't even say fully cover, but they would, be able to put money towards fixing the car. But to me, it was like it's pointless going that option because I know they're not going to pay the full amount to fix a whole transmission. Like most dealers are not going to do that. I'm guessing Trini might be out. And Naruba is the final question. I never assisted to a physical auction. I'm going to a Mannheim location nearby. I don't want to get overwhelmed or anxious going. How to tackle the first buys from Mannheim. So first, I would say if you're just going, you never went before, just take one day, like not buying anything, just taking everything in, like just seeing how the whole thing goes. Like even with how you get in, most of the time getting in is pretty easy. Like you'll have your auction access tag, you scan that up, or there's a representative there that that you show the auction access tag, and then you have a good amount of time to go in. Well, I can't even say a good amount of time. It depends when you get there. Most auctions, they'll have a certain time per week. A lot of times it's like 9 o'clock, maybe like 9 a.m. that they'll start, and then the auctions will just be going. But I would say at least the first time that you're going, honestly, I would say just, go and just take everything in, see how the whole process is, see how even when people are bidding, you're seeing that process as well. Like, how just to kind of get the feel of things, And I will also say I have a video about that too. I believe it's something like Mannheim, how to bid on Mannheim. So search that up on the channel too, and I go in a good amount of depth about that stuff too. But that will show you a good amount about the bidding process in itself. But when it does come time to where you're actually ready to go and then bid on cars, as one thing, first of all, you should also call Mannheim to see if you can bid on cars, or if you can check out cars the same day that you're bidding on them, like the same day that the auction is actually going for that car. Because some of those auctions, like they're really big, and they more so have it where you have to go the day before to check out the car. But honestly, I mean, especially if you're just getting into everything too, even if that's not the case where you could go the same day to check out the cars and to bid, I would still suggest, especially if this is your first time, you should go a day before just to check everything out. And you have enough time, like make sure you have more than enough time to check out the cars and stuff. A lot of times they'll close maybe like 5 o'clock, let's say, before you have to get out of the auction, and we're checking the cars out and stuff. So make sure you're giving yourself enough time to check out everything. And I would potentially even say, I mean, I would say, Mannheim, they actually do have like a fee generally if you're bidding on cars online. Same with the Desha usually too. There's usually like a $50 fee if you're bidding online rather than bidding there. But if you're just going your first time and you're already kind of feeling like somewhat anxious about everything, I'll potentially say trying to just bid online the first time, maybe like the first one time or two times that you bid for a car, when you're going there. Just so, of course, you're still going the day before to check out the cars, but let's say the day of you bid online instead, just so that just because honestly, like when you're there at the auction, it could get to be a lot. Like cars are coming up. You have a lot of dealers around you. The prices are coming up quick for the cars. You have the auctioneer there shouting out the numbers. Everyone's raising their hands. It's very easy, I will say, to get into a bidding war, which is what you don't want. Like you want it to just be where you have a certain number set in your mind of how much you want to get to as your top number to bid, and then you stop there. You don't want it to be where you're like, well, maybe it can make sense, and this guy he still wants it, so I'll try to keep going up. Like no, don't put your emotions aside. Once it gets to that number, just drop out. And that's why I would say, like, if you could bid online that first time, or even first two times, if you're not fully comfortable yet, even if you have to pay that $50 extra bidding fee, it could be worth it rather than like going in there and being too overwhelmed. And yeah, Trini. So like I said, was it where you had an option, by the way, to be able to give the car back since you're still here? And Alfred, you said, I have to say you're one of the most honest and believable online. I appreciate you, man. Did you dump into the auction access stuff? I'm not sure. I felt like your name sounds familiar. Like I've spoken to you before, and I get that, for the whole being burned stuff before. And honestly, that's why, like, when people jump in and they look at the whole auction access program in itself, like, even though it's a great deal and stuff like that, I know most people are probably like, you know what, this thing is probably a scam, and I can't like fault them for that, like, just with how the world is nowadays. It's a shame it's like that, but a lot of people are just in it for that quick money, where you jump into something that one time, and then maybe they're nowhere to be found after that. So that's how I was before I jumped in. I was very skeptical with things, but I thank God I didn't end up getting scams in general when I jumped in. And this guy, this owner of the dealership, like, he's been running things this well for so long, and that's why I'm all right, like, recommending people to him and stuff. But and I will say too, like, on his side of things, he's a very busy dude. Like, some people, they even get a little sketched out of the fact that he doesn't have, let's say, like, a website up right now. So let's say if you search up his dealership, it might not come up. You'll still see information about him. I think there's certain information that's still about him online, but like his full dealership website might not be up. Let's say, and he said that he's working on that. Like, he actually said he's getting, as a pretty huge thing, he's supposed to be getting financing, not only for him, for like the dealership side of itself, but also for people like us that's under the dealership, where that could be a huge thing itself. Let's say you could be selling cars for like $20,000, $30,000 and above, and over financing for it, and you could sell the car a lot faster at that point, you know. But he said once that comes, then he's also going to have the website up as well, and up and running with everything. But just saying that, just because, like, I see how busy he is, with everything. I see that, like, not only does he have, obviously it's really busy in itself, just having your own dealership. I'm pretty sure most of us know how busy of a job that is, and he's doing that completely by himself. He doesn't have anyone working with him, as like managing the dealership and stuff like that. And then he's also doing this side as well, where he's helping the people that want auction access and stuff too. And like I said, there's over 100 people that's under the team right now, and there's some months where a lot of people buy a lot of cars. Like, I think he said, like, some of the last couple months, there was like, I think it was like November, December, there was like 60 cars that was purchased just through ACV alone. So imagine how much work that he's doing, behind the scenes to get the paperwork out, and for all the people calling him up and asking questions and stuff, So just saying, he's a busy dude. So that's why, like, when things like that come up about, like, all right, well, he doesn't have a website set up, stuff like that, I could see why. And honestly, I hope he gets like a team that he can trust to and that can, like, help with everything. But from what he said, like, it's tough getting someone that he can actually trust to do the business well, on both sides, really. Like, someone that is going to be able to take care of, let's say, even this part, like, be able to take care of us well, and not be someone that's going to be screwing things up potentially. But and also someone that's not going to be trying to, like, steal from him or something like that in some way. But just saying that, like, I know I know how things look, from the outside, and when some people kind of, like, leave different comments or whatever, and they're saying, oh yeah, something's a scam, I completely get it. Honestly, I completely get it. But okay, so we're gonna wrap this up with the last question then. And you said Mac and Toe. Is it legal to rent a dealer's license off of someone? So if you're talking about, let's say, the auction access program, well, yes, it is legal. I mean, you're basically, let's say if you're signing up into something like this, you're just marked as a dealer representative. Like you're just another person that's buying and selling under the dealership. You have the same authentication and stuff like that as he would as the owner of the dealership going into an auction. And then even when it comes time to selling the cars and stuff, like technically the cars will be under the dealership's name, but you'll just be marked as, let's say, the seller of the car, as a representative. So, but it is all legal. But all right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up on this one. I've been on the call for like a little over an hour and a half. But but just as a quick thing for everyone, actually, before everyone goes to, just drop into the comments like what you plan on doing this year in terms of your goals, like what you want to accomplish. I mean, it could be even anything outside of like the flipping world, but what's your primary goal you're pushing for this year? Charles said make a minimum of 2,000 per car. That's good. That's good. It's definitely achievable. New by October of next year, willing to be dealing with a 50K volume of cars. Okay. So let's say you made 50K so far in the year, or let's say you want to have like capital of $50,000 like built up where you can be flipping cars and stuff. Oh, nice. Now you're at 15K. There we go. Tracy said 50K next year at a minimum. Nice. Oscar, buy a lift from my garage and do more work myself. There we go. And a capital of 50 to build up. And now, as the next quick thing before I go, drop in a comment too of what would be the main thing that would stop you from getting that goal. You have that goal in mind, right? You want to do that. You want to be doing it before 2026 comes up. What would be like the main threat to you being able to achieve that goal? A little bit of thinking work, really quick, to wrap things up. You said the couch and Netflix. Appreciate the honesty, first of all. Appreciate the honesty. But I mean, at least you could at least quickly see what you have to, kind of cut away. Maybe you should sell that couch. Naruba said time. Obviously, you can't make time, right? But I mean, it's up to you what you do with it, and how you have to shift around that time to get that goal that you want. Chaz, you said clarify my path of financial freedom. That's a good goal. And Chaz, on that point, what would stop you from hitting that goal? Like, what would be your main threat to be able to achieve that goal? For right now. Tracy, you said buyers of the vehicles. Buyers of the vehicles would stop you from hitting your goal of getting 50K within the next year. So people that could buy the cars. And Naruba said, afraid of not being able to keep up with the intensity of car flipping. Definitely hear you there too. And to be honest, I get it. Like it could be a lot. I mean, first of all, again, it's good you're being honest with yourself too, Aruba. But it could be a lot sometimes. Kind of managing different things, and especially if you're still working like a regular job and then managing this too, which most people are probably coming from. But I would say on that point, just try to think about like where you want to be. Like think about that goal that you mentioned, and if you could even like write that down. It's up to you if you want to do a vision board or something like that. But if you want to, you got to really think about that when you're going through those tough times. Because obviously, I started there too before I went full time flipping cars. Like I was kind of shuffling between things, still working my last job and then doing this on the side and stuff too. And obviously, in the point, like you're really busy. You're really busy at that time. But you got to think about what things will be like when you're done, like when you finished and you got that goal that you want. And I'm gonna be honest, for most people, if you get to that point where you're flipping cars full time, you're probably not gonna want to work for anyone else again. Like that's usually how it is. And I will say on that quick point too, like just don't quit. Like that's really the easiest thing to do. And I know it sounds easy, but it sounds simple, but that's what really gets most people caught up. They get through like a couple of mess ups, a couple of mistakes, a couple of things don't go their way, and then they're done. Like they drop everything and they just jump to something else. And if you want to be successful in this game, honestly, it's successful in anything, but successful in this game, like you got to be able to just dust yourself off, learn from it, and keep it going. And Oscar said it's hard to give up so much of the profit for repairs, so I feel like if I had the right tools, it will motivate me to do the work myself. It's definitely true, especially if you're getting cars from like Copart or something like that, and you're paying for fees and stuff like that on top of it. Like those those repair stuff can really add up quick. And of course, I will say on that point, you definitely have to think about all that stuff before you buy the car too, so you're not getting blindsided by everything. And you're welcome, man. You're welcome. You said first live watching you. That would be awesome. Meeting you in person one day too. Maybe I'll see you in the auction or something like that. And you said, yeah, if no one wants to buy them, and I estimated wrong in the car price. Yeah, I hear you, Tracy. That's why I say like, just before everything, like I'm pretty sure someone else mentioned in the call too. But the profit is made off of the purchase, not the sale. You know, honestly, if it comes time to where you're struggling when it comes time to selling it, you probably made a mistake when it came to purchasing it. Either where you purchased it for the wrong price, you didn't think about the repairs right beforehand. You didn't like you overpaid for the car. You just shouldn't have bought the car potentially. So that's usually where it comes back to, and that's why you have to take your time. When it comes to buying that right car, you know, you have to do as much research as you can beforehand. And yes, sir, vision boards definitely do. Honestly, it helps being able to just look at that goal and see like what you're shooting for every day. All right, everyone. So we're gonna wrap it up there. Alfred, good to see you again. Naruba, Tracy, Oscar, Chaz. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And thanks for jumping on the call too. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hopefully, the stuff has been working that I've been teaching and been helping with so far. And actually, oh wait, I'm sorry. As a quick thing, as a quick thing before we go, as just one thing that you love to see me cover more of in the channel, just so I can know like what you guys like to see as well, like that I potentially haven't covered yet, as content or whatever. I'm sure most of you guys probably are looking for the next flipping series videos too. But outside of the flipping series, what other type of thing would you like to see more of? I know I'm holding you up a little bit, but Okay, Charles said, seeing how you scroll through ACV and look for cars. Okay, some more of that side in general through ACV and all the administrative side of things. Okay, like more of the back end type of stuff around car flipping too. And the paperwork when selling, which you give to the buyers. Okay. I will say on the paperwork part, I did actually make one video covering that topic, but I could potentially, teach a little bit more about it too, or come from like a different position with it, filling out the paperwork. Okay, cool. But all right, guys. So have a good night. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Like I said, the next flipping series video should be coming out next week. So definitely wait out for that. And you'll be hearing some of the arbitration process and stuff too. But thanks for jumping on the call. And like I said, like for you guys that have posted up your goals and stuff like that, don't quit on them. Stay consistent. Keep going for them. Like they're not just gonna get themselves. Just saying. Obviously it sounds obvious, like, but most people, like, the reason is not anyone else's fault but our own for most of the time when we don't hit the goals that we want. Like if you just keep going for something, you're gonna eventually get it. So everybody that set those goals, just now, just today, hold yourself to that. I'll probably be asking you guys again in a couple months to see if you guys hit those goals or not. Not even actually in a couple months, but obviously by the end of the year, if you hit that goal or not. All right. But I'll talk to you guys soon. And yeah, have a good night.